Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
WMAL. 8:06 here on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for joining us. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that jazz. Coming up, we're going to talk about Joe Biden's Christmas message, which didn't seem very Christmassy, actually. But what do we expect at this point? We'll get to that in a minute. But first, Julie Gunlock, we've got our friend Gabriella Hoffman. She's the director of she is the host of the District of Conservation podcast over there at the IWF Center for Energy and Conservation. She's Gabby Hoffman, for crying out loud. Good morning, Gabby. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Julie and Larry. How are you? Hope you had a great Christmas.
You're like Greta Thunberg, but sane and smart. Is that fair?
You could say that. I'll let you have that credit.
But the only thing you have in common with her is that you do care about this planet. I'm assuming she cares about the planet, but you really do, and you like to sort of focus on tried and true ways in which we have actually been able to conserve and actually help our environment and our planet. So thank you for doing all that you do. When you look back on 2023, we were told at the beginning of the year when we saw this move to get rid of gas stoves that we were conspiracy theorists, that we were making things up, that it was all a right-wing fever dream, that no one's taking away your gas stoves. And then, last I checked, didn't New York literally pass a law getting rid of gas stoves?
They were the first in the union to do so, and so many localities and other states may follow next year in 2024. But if you guys remember, and listeners remember, Richard Trumka's son, who sits on this commission for consumer product safety, he was the one who was originally touting this, and then a month later, Department of Energy proposes their rule, which would eventually phase out 50% of models.
Yeah, and but it isn't just gas stove. We spend a lot of time talking about gas stoves. It really kind of catches people, especially when, the vice president tweets out her, fake "I'm cooking Christmas dinner" picture, and she's standing right in front of her gas stove. They like to poke us, but it's not just gas stoves. They're coming for other things that make our lives easier. Give us kind of a sense of what some of those things are and what you're doing at your center to sort of address that and warn the American public.
Yes, at the Center for Energy and Conservation at IWF, which I now helm. I've been helming it for almost 2 months now. We really are trying to tackle, all these kind of difficult or maybe convoluted energy and conservation questions. Today is actually the 50th anniversary of the Endangered Species Act. We also like to tackle ludicrous, onerous energy efficiency appliance standards, which includes gas stoves and also like 14, 15, I think upwards of 18 more that we've been tracking this year. And our sister organization, Independent Women's Network, has a great action center for anyone wanting to chime in on keeping an appliance that makes their life easier. We're also exposing kind of the rules that are going after gas furnaces, air conditioners, refrigerators. There's so many. It's ridiculous how much.
Gabby, just to put it in sort of layman's terms, these are the kind of rules that when you pull your stuff out of the washing machine, your clothes isn't clean, or that you put you literally have to clean your dishes before putting them in the dishwasher, and they right. don't come out totally clean or dry. These are these kinds of rules that either make your appliances more expensive or they don't work as well. Isn't that right?
It's true. So you're not really saving energy. You're using less water. That's what they tell you. But you have to do how many more cycles with the dishwasher now? You're exhausting more energy. The same with all these other appliances. You're going to be giving the appearance that you're doing less with energy, but you're actually wasting more in other supplemental, let's say, processes that are involved with igniting, an air conditioner, a dishwasher, furnace. You're having to do more, and then they tell you you're going to be saving so much with the climate benefits you're going to have. And I'm thinking to myself, how is a typical household, going to save when $9,400 are going to be added to your expenses in totality with this retrofittation or this kind of retooling of your house to go green? It makes no sense. If you're having to spend more to save less in energy, it's a gimmick. It's not savings whatsoever.
We are speaking with Gabriella Hoffman. Gabby hosts the District of Conservation podcast. And by the way, I love the use of the word conservation, because environmentalists and being an environmentalist or environmentalism seems to be the big buzzword or the way to go if you want to virtue signal that you care about the planet. There used to be a time when the word was conservation. Conservation means that you conserve what we have. By the way, it sounds a lot like being conservative, so God forbid we embrace something like that. But you make the point often that if you are a hunter, if you're a regular hunter or angler and really enjoy the great outdoors, you're not wearing Birkenstocks and, smoking patchouli when you're out in a national forest. You're actually doing what these national forests were designed to do, which is live off the land. And that includes hunting, that includes fishing. They're the ones who are actually doing more for the environment than any major agency out of Washington, D.C. ever does.
At this point in time, absolutely. And certainly, there's billions of dollars that have been appropriated for conservation, and it's largely coming from hunters and anglers. Last year, it was $1.6 billion that hunters and anglers cumulatively sent back to the Department of Treasury, Department of Interior, to go back to the states. And it didn't require much effort. It's anytime you buy a gun, ammunition, boating equipment, licenses, fishing gear, et cetera, all those monies go back indirectly. And then there's supplemental money that comes obviously from private contributions as well. But it's the hunters and anglers who are supposed to be the people who are leading conversations, leading discussions. What we've seen this year, and we've documented at IWF and elsewhere that I've done, chiming in on these issues, we've seen this kind of sidelining of hunters and anglers. The Biden administration loves to say, oh, we consult them. We're consulting them on our 30 by 30 plan. We're consulting them here. But quietly, and less obviously, they're taking them out of the equation, or they're putting restrictions on hunters and anglers on what type of accessories they can use, lead phase outs. So anytime, if you go to a certain wildlife national refuge now, two of which are in the D.C. metro area, kind of respectively speaking, a little further out, but in the Delmarva area, rather, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia coast. In certain refuges, you cannot use any lead particles going forward. And they're going to be doing this all over the country. And then they've closed up certain public lands for hunting and fishing opportunities in Alaska and other states because it's not convenient for their narrative, or they say it's too much intrusion. Anytime there's a national monument designation, hunter and angler activities are not often respected, and we see those monuments being used to stop multiple uses on public lands. Mm-hmm. So the people who are the true conservationists, even beyond hunters and anglers, they're getting sidelined, and that's a repetitive thing we've seen, and it's sadly going to creep into 2024. So that's a big failure from this administration, even though they love to tout hunters and anglers.
Wow. So do you have any big plans for this year coming up? I know that you sort of have a bit of a bucket list on things you want to achieve. You haven't bagged a bear yet, have you?
No. I may do a bear den study and observe that. That would be really cool to document.
Did I see a tweet from you saying you're going to go to, was it Argentina or to fish?
No, I would love to. Love to. Did you see what they're doing there? You could have a free market in a very well-to-do environment, which is what we have here too. But no, Argentina has a beautiful, their landscape is gorgeous. Of course, The environmentalists here love Argentina's, Patagonia range, but they misunderstand, what true conservation is. They want everything to be a national park. National parks are great, but we don't want to have every single thing be a national park. A lot of lands have to be open for multiple uses, and that also includes, admiring and not, developing everything, every tract of acre, of course. But we have such a unique system where we can do so much on private and public lands, and it's a model that we want to keep and retain. But we see people oftentimes, and now more so on the left, wanting to kind of erode that principle of having access to land through something we've been documenting called natural asset companies. The SEC is pushing this rule, and because of efforts of certain grassroots organizations we work with, the state financial officers and Harriet Hageman and some others, they've forced the SEC to reopen comments. This plan, let me tell you, go to IWF.org, read about this, because this is such a sinister plan to remove land ownership if you're a private landowner and public lands access. And it invites the BlackRocks of the world, adversaries like China, to own land, private and public, in the United States. It's insane. And the Biden administration may greenlight this.
Wow. Gabriella Hoffman, it's always good to end our year with you. Thank you for keeping us up to speed on all this stuff, and thanks for not being insane like Greta Thunberg.
and not stealing luggages like Sam Britton. Of course, Happy New Year.
Well, I mean, I think that should go without saying, but sure, absolutely. Thanks, Gabby. It's 8:15. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock, and we have to do our weekly check-in on Senator Fetterman of Pennsylvania. Because once again, he is defying all logic and sounding reasonable and normal. And the reason that defies logic is because he is a progressive Democrat. Although last weekend he actually chastised a reporter who talked to him about, what happened to your progressive roots? He goes, I'm not progressive. Stop calling me progressive. I'm just a Democrat. I'm just a good old-fashioned Democrat. What has happened to this guy? When he had his stroke, he ran to the left of Bernie Sanders as a radical. And now, is his brain healing? And now he's starting to realize that. So. Right?
I think a lot of us, I don't think you forget, but I think a lot of people do forget the Democrats used to not be totally insane and, sort of squad-like. And there were some, there were some hawkish Democrats. There were some reasonable Democrats that would negotiate and talk to Republicans. I do know that still does happen behind closed doors.
Yeah.
But, Fetterman is really acting like an old school Democrat here.
Well, and certainly with his blinding allegiance to Joe Biden, who is also kind of an old school Democrat. Old school Democrat, by the way, means that you lie through your teeth to get elected and pretend you're something that you're not. And then once you get into office, you accumulate as much power as possible, enriching your family and demonizing your political opponents. That's old school Democrat.
I was thinking more of the Sam Nunn, type hawkish Democrat that used to exist in D.C. Or,
maybe.
Joe Lieberman,
He is standing by Israel, and we'll give him that. And,
yes.
But And this is one of those stories where it's like, it's like, it's a football game between Notre Dame and USC. You want both sides to lose. It's like, I don't care. But he's criticizing James Carville now. So Carville's been out there on cable news and such, slamming Joe Biden, saying Joe Biden's going to lose. He's underwater. He's awful. And everybody knows that he's, losing it in the head, which I'm sure, probably John Fetterman's rather sensitive about that sort of talk. And so he is now pushing back on Carville, saying that he should shut the F up about Joe Biden. And then he says, my man hasn't been relevant since grunge was a thing. I don't know why he believes it's helpful to say these kinds of things about an incredibly difficult circumstance with an incredibly strong and decent, excellent president. I'll never fully understand that. Well, again, I do like it when James
it's hard for me to take a side here because I actually do want James Carville to shut the up, but not for the same reasons.
Oh, that's fair. All right, I understand that too. But it does draw into focus here, setting aside the fact that Fetterman continues to sort of, make us confused about who he is and what he stands for. But there are more and more people now. We talked 6, 8, 9 months ago about how in D.C. behind closed doors Democrats are talking about this, about how Biden's a disaster and they can't possibly have him as the nominee. Yeah. Now you're hearing them talk about it on the air. You're hearing them talk on, here's John Fetterman openly criticizing James Carville, going back and forth publicly about this very real conversation about whether Biden should be the nominee. Here's the problem. If I can remind you, the Iowa caucus is in like 16 days. Yeah. The New Hampshire primary is in 24 days. It's too late. The only way you replace Joe Biden is if it happens at the convention.
You're right.
And the voters have nothing to say about it.
Right. Well, that's how the Democrats like it. They don't really want the voters to have a say.
We don't want any democracy messing up the Democrat Party.
We don't want any of those rabble, just people making a decision.
But do you think do you think that's what they do? Do they somehow make this work? Let me rephrase the question. The only way they make that work, because I don't think they're going to November with Biden. The only way they make it work is if it's Kamala Harris as the nominee. That's the thing that's the challenge. I can understand taking him down and putting Kamala in. But how they come up with a Newsom or a Michelle Obama, that I don't see how they achieve.
I don't either. And I think it is increasingly looking like Kamala is the only choice here, which is just
God.
hilarious. It is just, I mean, it is, perish the thought. But there's no, I don't see any other way. I truly don't. I'm with you. I don't see any other way.
I don't. Yeah, they either take Biden to November, or Kamala Harris is the nominee.
Yeah.
I truly see no third option for Democrats, and that's why they're acting desperate. And by the way, that's why Jack Smith and the powers that be are trying to accelerate this prosecution of Donald Trump, because they believe that if Trump is convicted, that will be the final difference maker. There are certain voters who will just say, I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't care how bad things are. I can't vote for a man who's just been convicted. I don't think they're right about that.
This is why we're seeing the ramping up of what has been called sort of this assassination narrative, right? This sort of, if Trump is elected, it'll be the end of America.
Right, he must be stopped at all costs.
At all costs. That kind of creepy language, we're starting to see more and more of that because everybody's in a panic.
Listen, I just told you I was in Oklahoma for Christmas.
Yeah.
And, and I love going back to Oklahoma because you talk to real people, and you talk to people who, aren't part of the vernacular of Washington, D.C. And they
people
just,
who love snow. They're good people.
Not so much. Probably more than half of the people that I talk to, and they all want to talk to me about politics, of course, almost half of them, little over half of them, expressed an outward concern that Donald Trump would be assassinated. An outward, like, out loud, they're going to kill him, aren't they?
Yes.
They're going to kill him. And it's that the fact that you've got American citizens openly discussing that and talking about it and expressing grave concern about that at this time tells you how far we have come.
Which actually strengthens this narrative that the only way that he can protect himself is to get elected and have the power of the president. I mean, it's right. and people being that to some degree, I think that this is why when the left goes nuts and starts with this assassination talk, by any means possible, right?
Yeah.
What would you do to stop this?
Right.
That's why I think that is why we see as the more hysterical they become, his polling just goes up.
That is correct, because we have never seen this kind of language in the American media and in American politics before. There's a reason. It's so improper. It's so inappropriate. It's incitement.
It's
and it's coming from people like Joe Scarborough on NBC News.
Yes.
And
James Carville said something sort of hysterical on Bill Maher, I think, a couple weeks ago.
It is the definition of incitement. And you've got normative American voters who want to think the best of their country, who send their sons and daughters into the military to fight wars. And I'm telling you, these are not the kind of people who want to send their sons to go die in a war for a government that would assassinate a presidential candidate, especially the presidential candidate of their choosing.
Yeah.
And the message that is being heard by these voters is, we will do whatever we can to keep you from being able to vote for this person.
Yes.
And that is an incredibly dangerous place to be.
Yeah.
It is 8:25. All right, coming up, Joe Biden's Christmas message forgot one important element, the star of the show, Jesus. We'll tell you about that coming up. It's 8:36. It's O'Connor and Company here on the 28th day of December. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Julie, the president, put out his Christmas Eve message for all Americans. And it's funny, in this White House, the only use of the term Jesus Christ is not in a reverent way. It's in a vain exclamation used when the news cycle turns to Hunter or when Joe's trying to go up the steps of Air Force One. And then everyone there holds their breath and says, oh, Jesus Christ, he's going up the stairs again. Jesus Christ, did you see what was on Hunter's laptop? That's the only time they mention
really
his name.
Sad.
Yeah. Otherwise, instead, here, this would be a good moment to mention maybe the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
You might.
Instead, here's his Christmas Eve message. This Christmas Eve, my wish for you and your family is that you take a few moments of quiet reflection and find that stillness that's at the center of the Christmas story. See, that's what Christmas is all about, stillness.
This is the Oprah Winfrey version of Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
Really.
it's like
Taking
somebody
all-
went to the chat GPT and said, write me a
Yeah.
Hallmark card that doesn't
Yeah.
offend any religion. May you find peace in this silent night and warmth from those surrounding you.
It's not even a Hallmark, because at least the Hallmark channel has some religious content, right? And you can find a religious card at the Hallmark store. This is like going to a safe room at Berkeley, right? And finding their Christmas message, right?
But see, what's weird about this is it's not like this White House is in any way hesitant to mention religion. It's just the one religion. Right. It's just Christianity that they review. Because let's not forget,
they do like to trot out his deep Catholicism.
Oh yes, he's a very devout Catholic.
Yes,
very devout Catholic.
Yes.
Oh, are you kidding? When he dies, it's straight to sainthood for Joe Biden.
Right.
Saint Joe Biden, patron saint of Planned Parenthood. That's what we're going to get with this one.
Yes. Yep.
Just yesterday, Kamala Harris waxed poetic about a fake religion and about a fake holiday, about Kwanzaa. Listen.
What was the word?
Growing up, Kwanzaa was always a special time. We came together with generations of friends and family and neighbors.
No one believes this.
There were never enough chairs, so my sister and I and the other children would often sit on the floor, and together we lit the candles of the Kinara, and then the elders would talk about how Kwanzaa is a time to celebrate culture, community, and family. And they, of course, taught us about the 7 principles. My favorite principle was always the second, Kujichagulia, self-determination.
I always got to get to the Kujichagulia.
I know. It's so great.
I really like
nothing about
Kujichagulia
Jesus.
with an extra spicy curry sauce and a side of naan.
Kujichagulia.
Yeah, there she is.
Does it make you hungry every time she says it?
Really? I want some of that Kujichagulia. Did you know that the first Kwanzaa lampstand, the little 7-candle lampstand that they do?
Mm-hmm. With the leg with the mesh stocking on it? Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong leg.
That's a totally different.
Sorry, that's the wrong lamp.
Yeah. The very first Kwanzaa, I love the stories of the first Kwanzaa with the Maccabees and the attack of the temple. No, I jokingly refer to a menorah, a Jewish lampstand, because they literally desecrated a menorah to make their first Kwanzaa lampstand. They took an existing functioning menorah and they ripped off the outer 2 candle holders.
Yep.
And they just converted that into a Kwanzaa because it's a bastardization.
Yes.
They couldn't even come up with their own fake religion.
It was made up by some commie professor at Berkeley.
So there, she's looking with the Kama Jagalia and the Malekalekamachi or whatever else the word is. What was the word? Kami what?
I can't remember. Hold on.
Always commies.
Michael's going to find it.
Kujichagulia.
Kujichagulia. Sorry, not Kami. Why would I? So they got that going. They can't mention Jesus when they put out a Christmas statement.
No. Jesus.
But they got the Kajichakalia thing perfect.
Yes. We don't want to make people feel uncomfortable, Larry.
No. And then, by the way, during Ramadan, here was Joe Biden.
No, the quorum teaches that
the quorum.
the highest sign of the creation of heavens and earth.
Do we have a quorum?
And the diversity of our languages and colors. Well, I believe that to be true.
Now, here he is quoting the Quran, even though he can't pronounce it properly, and saying that he agrees with the Quran.
Yep.
That he can do.
Yes, that
But he can't mention the baby Jesus on Christmas Eve. And for everybody who's like, well, I don't want my president making any religious statement. Well, they're making religious statements. They're just picking and choosing which ones they want to make a statement about.
Right.
Is that what's the Easter statement sound like? On this celebration of hard-boiled eggs and fuzzy bunnies.
No, he's like, the bunny is very scary.
Yes. Why does that big rabbit keep telling me where to go? So let me just remind you that it is possible for a president to actually put out a Christmas message that, I don't know, sounds like it's about Christmas.
I would like to wish everyone a happy, joyous, and wonderful Christmas season. In this holy time of year, Christians everywhere give thanks that over 2,000 years ago, God sent his only Son into the world to be the Savior of all mankind. The birth of Jesus Christ is the true miracle we celebrate each Christmas. He is the ultimate source of our joy, our hope, and our sense of peace and goodwill as we gather with family and loved ones. It is such a great time of the year.
It is, and his statement went on, of course, toward the end to lambaste the communist losers and frauds like Joe Biden and Jack Smith and Pocahontas. But still, it started out nice.
It started out. I just love to listen to Trump give that message and imagine the staff going, "Please stay on message. Please stay on message. Please stay on message.
Please don't go off.
Read the statement. Read the statement. Read the statement." But he didn't at the end. You're right. He did go off a little bit.
No, well, actually, I'm joking.
Okay.
He tweeted the stuff about, but in the video message, he did stay right on message there on prompter. So, I wanted to thank Warner Todd Houston, who's a great writer, great blogger. He's old school blogger. Back in the good old days, he's the one who actually discovered this and pointed out the fact that, hey, the president's Christmas message forgot one thing. The baby Jesus.
Kind of a critical thing.
But I guess we shouldn't expect any more from...
No.
What does he have for brains again? Remind me.
Mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes. That's right. I'm getting hungry. It's 8:43. So, carjackings are up over 100% in Washington, D.C. this year. We're a whisker away from 1,000 carjackings. Do you think that the carjackers, they can see the calendar, they see the tally? We're heading up on December 31st. Do you think it's like, come on, guys, we can do it?
Yeah, step it up.
Right? We're so close. Let's just get it to 1,000. It's like Jerry Lewis and Ed McMahon. Do we have a new total?
It's awful.
So we're hitting 1,000, and twice now the D.C. government has responded appropriately, and they have given away free Apple AirTags to car owners in D.C., not to keep their car from being stolen, but just so they can see where their car is as it's been stolen.
Right. I mean, you say, yeah, I thought AirTags were things like luggage, right? And I don't know, give your kid
luggage
an
and
AirTag
sometimes
or
children,
something.
or maybe your phone or whatever,
but
your car
what
keys.
In the world? What do you do exactly? Because I wonder, once you tell the police officer, "Oh, I've tracked my car," they don't do anything.
They don't. No, they'll recover it after it's been stripped or sold or crashed or whatever. Yeah, but it's like, look, no, I can see it driving through the city right now. Why don't you go chase them down? No, we don't do that.
So they're annoyed. So it's basically they're doing it to annoy you.
I have no idea why. I don't know what it's supposed to do, but they've announced now that they're offering a third giveaway for Apple AirTags. So because apparently they can't keep the AirTags on the shelf. Everybody wants one of these. So here, this is typical DC government. Okay, people who live in certain areas of the district, known as Selected Police Service Areas, PSAs, will be able to pick up a free digital tracking tag at one of 2 distribution events. At each event, attendees will be required to show proof of residence within the selected areas to receive a free tracking tag, which, by the way, think this through for a minute. Your car, you might be a victim of a carjacking, and we're going to help you out, but only if you live in a certain area. Well, wait a minute. My car goes all over the city.
Right.
It is by definition a mobile object. So even if I don't live where the carjackings are taking place, I might need to drive through the area where the carjackings are taking place, and that's when I'll get carjacked.
That's right. That's right. Wow.
So you're just like, oh my gosh, I just
DC.
got carjacked. Okay, well, more importantly, what's your zip code? Right? So residents who live in PSA 705 and 708 can attend one of the following distribution events, and then tell you about it. So you might be asking yourself, well, do I live in PSA 705 and 708? Oh, they'll help you out with that. There's an easy map at a website to determine what PSA you live in. Just go to mpdc.dc.gov/patrol services. Got that, everybody? Got it? Okay. No. So I did this. I went there. And they have divided the city up into 7 districts.
Okay.
Think that through for a minute. They have divided the city up into 7 districts. You know that D.C. is already divided up into wards.
Oh, right, of course.
How many wards do we have, Julie, in D.C.?
I don't know. Honestly.
We have 8 wards in D.C.
Oh.
And they couldn't just stick with that. We need to somehow divide the city up into designated areas.
How will we do that?
Well, let's not use the wards that we've already used.
Right,
no, let's go from 8 wards to 7. So you might think you know what district you live in, but no, you don't. So then you have to print out your own printable PDF version of the map to figure out what district you live in, and
Which
the MPDs.
also means if you have a complaint about this, you can't necessarily go to your member.
No.
Because it's not equal.
Your representative from your ward might not
right.
also be your representative in your
for that.
PSA police district.
Right.
That you then have to use the Easy Access PSA Finder to figure out which PSA you live in, and if you're a block away from what they have designated is the carjacking mecca of D.C., then you're not eligible to get one of these things. But if you're a block in that direction, then you get your free Apple tag. So once again, that's mpdc.dc.gov/patrol services. Look up your district, which is not the same as your ward, and find out if you're in one of the danger PSAs that they've created. Otherwise, you're out of luck. Just kiss your car goodbye.
At some point, Larry, some enterprising young staffer is going to come up with this idea that the best way to reduce carjackings is to offer police officers to the city and actually, arrest people who are carjackers. At some point,
That's
someone's going to
crazy
think of
talk.
that, Larry. They're going to think of that eventually.
Next, you're going to say that after you arrest them, you actually put them in jail.
Right,
Wow.
right. Well, it's coming. So at some point, someone's going to
Where's
think of
the
that.
equity in that?
Yeah, I'm giving them a tip. Maybe they should.
It's 8:53.